How to Write a Text-Dependent Analysis with Lemonade the Musical by Paul Ancampora. Teacher background. Analysis is the detailed examination of the elements or structure of text by breaking it into its component parts to uncover interrelationships in order to draw a conclusion. The student identifies two important components of the text, examines their interrelationships closely, and makes a conclusion, often about the author's message. It looks like this symbolically. Today's lesson will focus on a deeper understanding of Lemonade the Musical by Paul Ancampora. Today's prompt. Authors often use the plot as a way to develop or change a character. Write an essay analyzing how the author uses the plot to develop the character Michael in his story Lemonade the Musical. Use evidence from the text to support your answer. It could look like this symbolically. One element is the plot. The other element is Michael's character, or rather how his character changes. The prompt asks for a detailed examination of these two elements to uncover interrelationships. How does one affect the other? Then the student must use those ideas to draw a conclusion about the text. Usually the conclusion is related to the message or theme of the story. The assignment begins with close reading. A careful reading of the text is necessary for a successful analysis. Close reading examines what the author says, how the author says it, and why the author says it. Often this is done with 3 separate reads, each with a different purpose. The importance lies with defining a purpose before the read. Remember, you see what you look for. For the first read, focus on what the author says. What's the gist of the story? Then, write a 1-paragraph version, a short summary, in your notebook. It's important to take time to share and talk about the notes students have taken. Studies show that collaborative discussions where students orally identify the literary elements and produce a visible product, like their notebook, better enable students to describe the author's content and infer the author's message. Here are some methods to share your ideas after each read. You're going to read the text again, a second read. But this time, you'll have a different purpose. For this read, your purpose is to examine how the author wrote his story. What are the craft elements? Think about point of view. What is the dialogue? Does it change? How are the characters portrayed? What words does the author use? You'll have to step back from the text as you focus on the big picture of how the author tells his story. This big picture and looking at the text differently while you read is called metacognition. So how does the author tell his story? Identify the author's craft, complete a table of the story elements in your journals, and write down other observations you have about how the author tells his story. You're going to read the text a third time. Now your purpose is to figure out why the author wrote the story. You do this by finding the interrelationships between the plot elements and Michael's character change. These ideas about how Michael changes are part of a larger message that the author wants to tell, a theme. So you're looking for the interrelationships between what happens to Michael and his change of character. Then, using that information, identify an author's theme. Now go back and reread the prompt. Write an essay analyzing how the plot develops the character change in Michael. Begin by making 2 columns on a new page in your journal. Label one plot element, label the other Michael's change. Gather the ideas and evidence from your notes and put them in the appropriate column. Be sure to align each plot element with the change in Michael's character. This makes it easier to identify their interrelationships. The opening of the essay is a rewording of the prompt, including the title and author of the text. It acts as a thesis statement and serves to set the reading purpose for the reader. Sometimes the theme is included, but it's not necessary. One way to organize your ideas in the essay is to use a 3-beat method resembling the different purposes for the close reads. The first beat of the essay presents information from the text you'll use. The second beat of the essay examines how the author writes. The third beat discusses the interrelationships between the two elements from the text highlighted in the prompt. The writer organizes the ideas to build intellectual complexity, so the essay is more satisfying for the reader. The information presented in the first beat is often an abbreviated retelling from the text, highlighting the elements you'll discuss. This information usually comes from the first read. It's what the author says. Here's an example of what you could have written. The next beat of the essay examines how the author writes. The student writer steps outside of the story and comments on how the author uses the conventions of the writing craft. This is referred to as metacognition. Take this information from your second read notes. The last intellectual beat is the why, the most important part of the essay. The older writer has saved this for the end. Why does Michael's character change? What's the author's message? Take this information from the table you made in your journal, aligning the plot element and the change in Michael's character. Here, the student writer explains the associations, interrelationships, and makes conclusions concerning the author's message. This is also the beat that includes the "what if an element were changed?" This would demonstrate a nuanced understanding of the interrelationship between the two elements. The student finishes by rereading the prompt and their essay. Do the ideas in the essay address the two elements in the prompt? Is there a discussion of symbols, associations, interrelationships, or conclusions? Is text evidence provided? Finally, is the essay structure clear? Are the spellings and conventions correct? Good job!